네, 안녕하세요.
Good morning. International Symposium of Science Museums 2022 will begin, and my name is Yuman Son from Kwachan National Science Museum. I will serve as a moderator for this invited session. Despite your busy schedules, all the distinguished guests participated in this session. Thank you very much. This session is joined by many participants online and offline. In the venue, we have so many empty seats. However, we have many participants joined online. And this session too will be very interesting. So I believe we are all excited. So I would like to introduce the distinguished invited speakers for session 2. First of all, we have the director Sigrid Falla of Maloka Science Museum. Next, we have President Lim Jinyoung of Openhouse Seoul. Last but not least, we are joined by Vice President Ganigar Chen of National Science Museum, Thailand. Then we would like to begin the presentation. The first presenter is going to talk about the citizen participation in the Science Museum in Latin America. The presenter is Director Sigrid Falla. I would like to invite her to the podium. Distinguished participants, please give her a big round of applause.
So, good morning, everyone. Are you listening? Fine, okay. So, it is a pleasure for me to be here. I want to say thank you for the National Science Museum for inviting me to this session. And I also want to join the expression of condolences that other participants had done to the people from Korea for the tragic loss of last weekend. And our heart from Colombia is with all of you. So my presentation is going to be about the experience of Maloka Science Center, which is a science museum located in Bogota, Colombia. This is the capital of our country. And our science museum has been open for almost 25 years from today. We have, during these pandemic years, 180,000 attendees per year in average. And the museum has also seven exhibit halls in different topics, which I'm going to explain later. 10 spaces for public laboratory for experiments. And we also have a program of traveling exhibitions that have been traveling around our country. At this moment, our exhibition have visited the 32 departments or states in Colombia and also have been in Ecuador and Panama. And we also have educational programs in STEM. So we work with 4,000 children of different ages in programs that I want to share with you today. So, but the first thing that I want to speak about is the challenges that we face in Latin America as science museums and science centers. So We are a continent which is very diverse. We are 650 million people in all, if we add the population of all the countries in Latin America, and we have more or less 150 science museums and science centers in different countries, mostly in Mexico, in Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, and some of them in other countries. And actually, there are some like Paraguay, which is at this moment building its first science center. We don't have notice of science centers in Bolivia, for example, so it's really a diverse continent. And most of the museums are small museums. So if we add the visitors or the people that they can reach, is less than the 10% of the population of the continent or of the country. And the other challenge is that we have huge disparities, not only among countries, as I already said, some of them have hundreds of science centers or science museum or science communication institutions, and some of them have a few. But also we have huge differences between access to education of quality. In Colombia, for example, the difference between private and public education is really high. Also among rural and urban context, and with the participation of women in STEM areas in different fields. So what we have to do is a lot to make people participate in science, and those are the reflections that move the work that we do at Maloka. So we in Colombia have a concept or work on a concept which is the social appropriation of science. This is actually the name of our public policy to foster relationship among science and society. And the main characteristic of the concept of social appropriation of science and technology is that it's really contextualized. So we understand that the communities have knowledge and have interest in different aspects, and that science and technology has a role to play which is very particular for every community. And so it challenges us to think about programs that really relate to the reality and the interest of those communities, and to have them being part of every aspect of the design of the activities and the programs, which is not easy, and we have been learning how to work on that. So what we think about the role of museums is that even when it is important to share information with the public, this is not our main role or our main mission. Our main mission is to support citizens to understand themselves as producers of knowledge. I mean, it's not only being part of the knowledge society is not only about knowing many facts and information, but also like it is building a self-identity as a subject that is capable to build knowledge and to be part of these dynamics. So it is not only, as I already said, about interpreting information or being this recipient of the knowledge that others build, but being part of the dynamics of science and technology. So reflecting about this process, we as a science museum have to ask ourselves questions about what is science, for example, what is the meaning of science, and we understand science as a social process that is embedded in community and society that has economical, political, cultural implications. So it is a very situated and contextualized process. And also, we ask ourselves also, what is the concept of learning? Because there are some like common understandings of learning as the acquirement of knowledge, but it is also about having values, ethics, attitudes, and skills to be part of this process. So one of the things that we have done recently about working as a science museum in our context is to find what are those topics that our community and our society is thinking about. And one of those, which is a huge issue in Colombia, is building peace. Because we are a country that has had an internal conflict that is very complex, and I'm not going to explain, but has been all around us for 60 years, 60 decades of internal conflict with different implications. So we ask ourselves, what does science has to do with it? How can it help to build peace? And how the museum as an agora, taking the metaphor that John spoke about that yesterday, how can we promote meaningful conversations about our context? So we designed this exhibition, which is named The Science of Love and Forgiveness, and it's an exhibition that brings the knowledge of neuroscience, psychology, humanities, and arts to support our visitors for understanding their own emotions and to understand how those emotions relate in the way we stay with others, in the way we relate to others. And also, we brought some concepts about forgiveness that have been part of the reflections of psychology. And one of the interesting things is about forgiveness is that the person that feels the most benefits of forgiveness is the person that forgives, actually, because it takes out a heavy thoughts and wants and let the people be more quiet and happy with their lives. So we are inviting our people to understand those concepts in their own life and experience, and also we invite the people to share their own emotions. So for example, this board with colors is a place where we are asking the children that visit Maloka what makes them sad and share it with others. So when you read what they are telling, they are speaking about like losing pets or being without their families or different kinds of things. So when you see what makes sad others, you start reflect yourself on them. And this is important for having those conversations about building peace, not as in the context of a society, but in the context of individuals. So this is one of the things that we have done recently and that we are still working on, thinking about our own context. One thing that happened with this exhibition is that we made it in the usual process. So for the science of love and forgiveness, we we consulted experts in different disciplines and worked with them in the design of the narrative of the exhibition. But we wanted to go further in building our experiences with the public. So the next adventure that we went on was this exhibition that is to foster empathy and is named Migrate, an Act of Courage. And it relates to a reality that our museum is facing because some of you may know that we have been facing a huge immigration from Venezuela to other countries of Latin America, and Colombia is the closest neighbor, so we have been receiving a lot of Venezuelan immigrants. And even when we have in Bogota been receiving immigrants from other parts of the country, we were not used to receive foreigner. They are not that far immigrants. So we are facing still a situation of xenophobia against Venezuelans. And Maloka happens to be in the neighborhood where is the bus terminal. So in our neighborhood, we are receiving the first moment of immigration of Venezuelans. So we decided to do something about that. Again, we asked ourselves, what does science has to say about immigration? So we started building this exhibition, actually with the help of a very good friend of Ganigar and me, Polly McKenna-Kress. We started doing a process of intensive prototyping involving not only the experts that were researching about immigration, but actually the immigrant population that we were seeing in the streets in Bogota. So this process was really a co-creation process that involved the experts and researchers that were understanding this phenomena in Colombia, but also the people that were living the experience and institutions that were working with those immigrants. So the picture that you see is in the street is the team of Maloka in the street of the neighborhood, doing rapid prototyping of the exhibitions and asking some immigrants that were on the streets working with our team in thinking about this experience. And we followed the process with these different kinds of processes of participation, such as in-depth interviews. The exhibition shows the real story of 8 immigrants that have a different experience and which live a different kind of migration for different reasons. We made 2 workshops with Venezuelan immigrants. We work with children that are in the public schools and are from Venezuela. We invited them to visit Maloka, and actually we celebrated a Christmas in the Venezuelan tradition. So it was really the process of understanding and building conversation among different actors facing this specific issue. And the exhibition was thought for children, but welcoming adults, and it has been really a place where our visitors can speak openly about this, about their feelings about immigration, and to think about their own story of immigration, because all we have one story of immigration, and help to reduce these feelings of xenophobia against this population. So that is like the exhibition side of co-creating with our communities. And there are also educational programs that we have been working on, and one of those were something that we learned during the pandemic, during the COVID, because needless to say that it was a challenging situation for everyone, but in Colombia, and I am pretty sure in many countries, we have children that didn't have any internet connection or access to education during those times. So we decided to do something about that, and we started this program, which is named Let's Learn at Home with Maloka, where we decided to make the houses of the children exploration stations. And we designed different educational resources that were printed and digital, and we sent those materials to the homes of the children. But also the challenge at this moment, and I think now and always, is that parents are not educated to support learning of children. So we also decided to make educational resources for families and for the teachers. And one special thing about this process is that we didn't design the materials thinking about a specific topic, but thinking about developing skills and scientific attitudes in the children. So the materials have a wide diversity of topics, and actually we asked the children and educators about what were their interests, and we developed the materials on those topics. So for example, the first one, those materials are for elementary school and preschoolers, and one of the materials, the topic was where does the poop come from, which is something that a children is asking, and as I said, we sent those materials to the houses of 26,000 families in rural and urban context of Bogota. And the last program that I want to share with you is this one, which is in English, STEAM Girls. This is a program that we also designed during the pandemic and has been really successful because we have been working with children from 12 to 15 ages, only girls. And it's a program in which we deliver also different kinds of materials. Okay, I'm about to finish. And we invite women scientists as mentors to work with the girls. And also we have these different resources like synchronic sessions with our educators and a platform when they can have self-guided education. And it has been really an interesting process because we have built a confident space for girls to build their self-identity in STEAM fields. And the results are really inspiring for us. So some 90% of them said that the program was a safe space, a confident space to share their ideas. They identified new interests in STEM fields. And actually, the program is important because they built a self-identity in science. So, and this is my last slide. What I want to share in our reflection is that relevance is an ongoing question, and it is really situated and contextualized, and depending on the context where we are working and with the people we are working for. So Science Museum is what we really thought is what we really think is a place to build capacities in the people to be part of the knowledge society as knowledge producers. And this is the ongoing challenge that we are facing day to day in our museum. Thank you very much.
예, 발표가
Thank you very much for the presentation. So Maloka Science Museum is located in Latin America, and it is overcoming the gap between the rural and urban area, and it makes citizens to become the producer of knowledge. So it is serving as a agora. So we would like to have a Q&A session. First of all, I would like to ask for the participants in offline venue. If you have any question, please raise your hand. Is there any question in the venue? Yes, one question here.
Thank you so much for that talk. It's very inspiring, I think, especially to think of the work you are doing in a context which, as you describe it politically, is so unstable. And I wondered if you could reflect on how you continue with these community projects in that larger and, by the sound of it, rather unstable context. What influence does the larger conflicts which have plagued your country for so long, how does that impact your work as a science museum?
Well, it impacts us in many ways, but I think the most important impact that we feel is that we are in a specific country with specific realities, and science and technology have to play a specific role in this context. So this is because, of course, in our science museum, when you visit it, you find physics exhibitions and biology exhibitions and natural science exhibitions, and we speak about basic concept of science because it is important, but we can, and I don't know if the word is reduce our content to those like classical topics of a science museum. So one thing is, what are the contents that are relevant for this country and for these regions? And the other thing is, how can we build self-confidence in our children and in the youth to feel hope? Because the youth is in some ways hopeless. Some of them don't see a future. So this program, for example, STEAM Girls had been doing a really, really meaningful job in building this hope in the girls. They now, when we ask them what they feel about themselves, they say, I wanted to study this, and I have these questions, and I think I can build artifacts, and this has been a safe place to speak about. And actually, with the STEAM girls, the confidence among those girls is so big that they have telling us difficult stories that doesn't have to do with science or education, but with their personal story. And actually, we have been working on a kind of psychosocial approach also, because it is not only about learning science, but about building a community.
예, 이 다음.
Yes, next question.
For so many inspiring programs. I wanted to ask about those that take place in the museum, because I wondered about visitors who come to science museums may expect exhibits on biology and physics, but are maybe not expecting an exhibit about empathy or about migration. What are people's reactions like, and have you thought about that part of the experience?
Thanks for that question, because I didn't speak about that. Some people wonders why are you speaking about this? Actually, I didn't speak about other exhibition that is not longer in Maloka. There is a national office that works with the victims of the conflict, and we built together an exhibition that speaks about their testimonies of resilience and how they live this conflict. And it says a particular story about the conflict, which is the story of the national government, and it has facts, but we are in a conflict. So people see the conflict in different ways, and some of them feel shocked for what they say because, for example, it says we have 8 million of victims of the conflict, and they say that's not true. I haven't had anything to do with that, or who has caused the violence and these kind of things. So it has challenged us a lot on how to mediate in these conversations, not only about the topic of the exhibition, but also about the role of a science museum. Because the science museum is not only an amusement place, as you said yesterday, or a place to go and stay well and enjoy, but it's also about reflection, and some people are not expecting that. So we have to work a lot on this conversation with the public.
네, 세 번째 질문.
I would like to invite the third question.
English or Korean?
예. 한국어로 하겠습니다.
Let me speak in Korean. Yesterday, we saw the presentation from MIT Museum, and today, I think we had a presentation in the same line. Of course, the situation is different. In April, I visited Maloka, and I was surprised by two factors. The two factors are, I visited many science centers, and there are many docents, but I've never seen that happy docent from any other science center. So I realized that they're considering this not as a job, rather they are enjoying this work. So I was very impressed, and that was the second part. And when I arrived Maloka Science Center, I saw the exhibition of the victims for 8 million victims, and I was very impressed, and it was very shocking. And I questioned whether this is possible in Science Center. 40 years ago, in Gwangju, a nearby city in Korea, more than 400 people died. And we were shocked by the death of 400 people, and 8 million is even bigger number. And I questioned whether we can address this problem in Science Museum. For example, can we talk about the Gwangju incident in Daejeon Science Museum? There might be various social pressure. People may ask why Science Museum handles this kind of content. I believe the situation would be similar in Maloka. Internally, you may have some questions why, as a science center, we need to handle this issue. And there might be financial issues as well. And at the end, you also talked about the migrants from Venezuela. You want to have the inclusion of Venezuelan people. And there might be some people who are opposing about the accepting the immigrants from Venezuela. So what kind of discussion did you have internally to convince the opposition? And how did you address the opposition? Can you provide some detailed cases?
Thank you very much for the question. Well, the first debate about having this topic in the museum was inside the team of Maloka, because some of our colleagues don't think that this is a topic for a science museum, which led us a discussion about what science is, because we have like a kind of interpretation of that of science are natural sciences, but actually for us science is understanding the world, understanding the society, understanding ourselves. So this was the first step to say, okay, immigration is a social phenomenon. So we can bring this social phenomenon here and try to understand it not only from the perspective of the social scientists, but also from the perspective of the people that actually are experience this social phenomena. So that was the first step. And the second one was to bring partners to this idea. But actually, I think that was the easiest part, because the government in Colombia is worried about this issue, and there is an international organization of immigrants from the United Nations that supported the initiative. So the other part of this is that when we have an issue that is concerning your community and your society, you are not the only one that is worried about that. You have partners. So if you find those partners, you can have this possibility of having a welcoming place to speak about difficult issues that you as community are facing, and where science has a role to play. So this is the way we think about the work that we are doing now, and thinking about next steps.
예, 너무 좋고.
Thank you very much for the excellent question and answer. And due to the limited time, we would like to conclude the Q&A session, and further question will be asked during the Q&A session. Thank you very much, and please give her a big round of applause.
이제 마지막으로 세 번.
Last but not least, I would like to invite the third presenter. The title is Museum Program Designed to Empower Active Aging and Promote Intergeneration Communication. The presenter is Vice President Ganigar Chen of National Science Museum, Thailand. Please welcome her with a big round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. And I would like to first thank to the organizer, Daejeong National Science Museum, for inviting me to join this symposium. It was quite refreshing to be able to meet old friends and new friends, and to update our ideas and the works and inside museum field. And we have to thank Daejeong National Science Museum for made this possible. I'm from Thailand. You might heard a lot about Thailand, or some of you might have visited us, and your memory about Thailand would be about Thai food, nice beach. So today I hope to add one more thing about Thailand. It's about our museum, the National Science Museum. We are, just a moment. Okay. Well, we are a state enterprise under the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research, and Innovation, and we are located about 40 kilometers north of Bangkok. It will take you about an hour drive from Bangkok to our museum. At this moment, we have 4 museums that is under operation: the Science Museum, Natural History Museum, Information Technology Museum, and Ramanai Ecology Museum. In about 3 years' time, we are going to open a new museum called Futurium. It's going to be about innovation and the future skill. Well, about me, I have worked for the museum for about 20 years. And my background is science, biochemistry, and also education. I work a lot in international relation, collaboration as well. But I think the beauty of working in science education and international collaboration is that you have got a chance to see various ways museum can be a place, for that really contribute to the community, to the public. I have a lot of passion and interest in community engagement and sustainability. Part of it because of my inspiration I got from Professor Mamoru Mori, the speaker yesterday, when he was the president of ASPAC network. And also part of it from my experience as a noise leadership program that was, let's say, organized by STC. And that's how we learn how much museum can do to be part of the community. And that's how I met Sigrid and many other friends in this field. Back to ISSM Thailand. Well, I have already mentioned we have 4 museums, and also we run 3 science centers, one in Bangkok, one in Chiang Mai, which is the northern part of Thailand, and one in Korat, which is in the northeastern part of Thailand. We also run a few outreach programs, quite extensive, because we cover about 20 provinces a year, covering about 200,000 students. And we bring all sorts of activities together with our science caravan, exhibition, science laboratory program, makers, teachers training, and etc. Well, we also the national coordinator for Science Festival, which is organized every August, similar to in Korea. And in this science festival, we hope to be able to collaborate with Korea in the future. Well, as one of the ASPAC member, we recently worked a lot on SDG agendas, especially on climate, water, soil, and biodiversity. There are many projects as an aspect cross-country project like photo contest on rivers and oceans, or science drama competition for youth that I hope that in the future, we might be able to work together with Korea as well. Well, my talk today is going to be about our new movement towards aging society. Many of you may realize that countries like us, Thailand, Korea, Japan, are entering aging society. In the past, museums are very much focusing on young generation, which undoubtedly very important to cultivate young minds. However, we should also take into account another majority of the society, which in a way will also need opportunity to learn and live well. The latest book of John Fork, the director of Institute of Informal Learnings, he studied about impact of museums for many years and in many ways. In this book, he summarized an interesting finding about our visitors, that values of museums, not only on intellectual well-beings, but also on personal well-beings, physical well-beings, and social well-beings. So I think we as museum might have to also see more how we could make sure that we maintain that values to the society and this morning we heard from Sigrid as well, how we can do that. Based on UNESCO definition of active aging, growing more years in one's life with good health, participation to the society, and sense of security is considered as active aging. So Science Museum, as part of the community, we have so much, let's say, good facilities and many activities and values to offer. So, for example, we have a nature of science and art, storytelling. We have hands-on learning and interaction. We have positive and enjoyable experiences offered. We have opportunity for creativity. And also we are a safe and open space for all. So how can we make use of these attributes to support aging society, just like we support the learning and growth of the young generation? Can museum be a friendly space for elderly, just like for kids and family, a place where older adults can learn, progress, and enjoy, a place that they can feel empowered, gain confidence, and have identity? Can we help strengthen senior citizens to be valued member of the society and to be a space to encourage collaborative and understanding among people of different generations? So we start with 3 questions. How can we empower older adults to be the contributor in the museum, in addition to being visitors? Of course, our museum have programs for senior citizens to enjoy, to visit, but how can we empower them not only to be visitors, but to be a contributor in the museum too? In many museums in US or Japan, I understand that they have made senior volunteer programs, but in Thailand we don't have it yet for many reasons. So we would like to take one step further to explore this. How can this be organized? Second question is, today the generation gap between young and old people are getting wider. Families in the city are more like smaller size with single family, only one parents and only parents and kids, and they no longer live with the grandparents. So empathy is less. Sometimes young generation do not understand physical limitation of the older people or appreciate the value of the older generation because they have so little time to be together. If this gap is wider, society will have less and less empathy and wider generation gap. And our third question is, can we use some of the museum activities to upskill older adults and at the same time allow them to unleash their creativities? Science Museum is a great place for creativity. How can we make use of that? Okay. So we finally decide to develop 4 programs with funding of our National Research Councils. The first project is to empower older adults to communicate arts and traditional technology to science museum visitors. We choose this because we want to start with something not too technical, but related to history, science, culture, and also we would like to complement our Thai traditional technology gallery on the top floor of our museum, which is quite interesting in terms of content, but not yet so interactive. So we first identify local community in our province, Pathum Thani, that still work on producing traditional products. And we visit the communities, meet the elderly people there, ask them if they would be interested to join the museum in this project and work on, a communication skill development. We finally got 5 communities agree to take part. And that is not easy because usually these group of elderly, older people, they stay in the community. They also teach someone who are interested and come by, and they are quite shy. But then we are very glad that they finally accept the challenge and then decide to work with us on this project. So what we start is we get back to interview them. We want to know what would be their concern or worry if they have to come and, let's say, work in the museum with us. And then we start to prepare the support that they concern, help developing some of the media to help them communicate, and then also organize some training programs. The group has to, after the coming to join our training session, they have to go back and organize that group, organize all the materials, and then do some rehearsal. What I just show here are the 5 groups that produce some traditional products in their community. So that's something about silk, paper, silk clay jar, or some materials, some herbal balms, or some hot compressed ball, okay, and traditional flags, and also rice straw paper. Okay. Well, this is how it happens during the rehearsal. We found that the elderly group seems to enjoy a lot in the training session. They kind of learning from each other as well in the training that, well, they can do a lot of things if they learning from each other. Okay. We finally put them in the gallery on Saturday and Sunday morning. Let them run the workshops with visitors who register to be part of the research programs. Most of the people who came are family group. Okay. Our staff then stay back and let them do the workshop totally on their own. And what we found was pretty amazing. The elderly group were very active, and they were so happy to support with support we provide, including all the tools and panels and videos, and they can use those tools very effectively in their demonstration. Looking from the visitors' perspective, we got very good feedback from the visitors. Several families realized that their kids never learn how to about this kind of a traditional culture, and also many of them start to feel bonded with the senior volunteers we have in the museum space. The parents mentioned that it's different from the activities that our staff run because their children can listen and learn many stories from the real wisdom. And they have so much to tell. And more than that, the senior citizens themselves, they are very, they feel very lively. They feel like they have their grandchildren, talking to them, and they don't want to even stop, doing the activity. There are other people, new visitors coming, and they watch the activity. They want to do it as well. So our senior educators offer to run extra round of activity for them. So for the findings, we found that to empower the senior citizen as a science communicators, we as a museum can support in some term of organization of the event, co-create the materials such as video, graphic panels, and display to make the setting more suitable for the museum. We can help by making the senior citizen feel more relaxed in the museum environment, allow them to rehearse and structure their communication. And the very effective storytelling by the senior citizen have a great impact on the visitors. We've found an expected bonding between senior citizens and visitors, and it's a great opportunity for kids to feel attached and be inspired by them. And more surprisingly, some of the families follow to the community and then also want to learn more about this group of community. For the second project, we organize program to encourage three-generation interactions. Some survey on the top. After we did some survey on the topic, we decided to use activities on energy and put it as a one-day programs with various activities, including demonstration, experiment, museum walk rally, and simple design thinking challenge. We open up for families to register to join the program with condition that participants must come in a family of 3 generations. All activities are offered for free. Then they attend these one-day activities on energy, and we made some observation of the interaction among members of the family, together with the post-visit interview. The result was not what we expect, but interesting. Not all activities show positive result in promoting intergeneration interaction. There seemed to be some sort of stereotyping in some activities, such as doing experiment, that the grandparents will ask to stay away and watch because it's too complicated, and museum walk rally was not so pleasant after 15 minutes walk due to the different physical strength of the member of the family. However, we found that the activities such as design thinking and makers turned to be good for 3-generation interaction. It's interesting that the modern parents are not so good at making, but the elderly generation are more experienced and hands-on and can help from their experience in cutting, making, and the grandparents, for the first time, learn about the grandchildren, for the first time, learn about the talent of their grandparents. Also, challenges we gave in the maker activity allow sharing of ideas, testing, playing together, sharing some same goals to collaborate and win the game. Some of the participants said they never had such activity or conversation like this at home before. They might go back home and try this at home. What moved us a lot is when the grandparents mentioned that they hardly have opportunity to go out to a place like museum and spend such a quality time with such interaction with the children and grandchildren. Because when they are home together, everyone seems to have their own space and stay with their own activity. So for the third program, we decided to use traditional toy making, which is usually run as an education program for children workshop in our museum. But we decided to use this program to empower the senior citizen skills of making and also creativity. This is a longer program. It's a 3-day training program. And we work with elderly center in the province to open up for registration. We have as many as almost 100 applicants, and we put them into 2 groups, two rounds of training. These 3 days workshop start from ice breaking, bonding, and learning about traditional Thai toys, and then some of the basic principle, science principle behind the Thai toys. Then the participants learn how to make the toys, various toys, and after they have the first one, they can make their own design. We also taught them about packaging and digital marketing so that they can use the knowledge of this to promote their own products in the future. From this project, it was much fun for them and for us. We found that good atmosphere, trusted environment among peers, clear goal setting, and good collaboration can happen. Actually, we also involve experts in elderly care psychology in the program development and training. Although we have to use difficult tools, they have to learn how to use difficult tools, but because of the support and the relaxed atmosphere, most of them can make it. Yeah. And more importantly, we found that the elderly show a lot of creativity in toy making. They show much enjoyment and pride to their products and their own stories. I think it is the value creation for their life. So this group of senior citizens end up having new skills in toy making, finding enjoyment in using creativity to design and make, and learn on digital marketing, and was inspired to continue making some income from what they learned in this program. As a conclusion, to this project, we found that the 3 projects contribute to health, participation, and security in some way. And we found that one of the key players in this program is the facilitators, who will have to understand how to work with senior citizens. These facilitators need to understand the learning psychology, the physical character of older adults. They have to speak slowly, loudly, repeatedly, and having empathy and understanding. And this would be skill useful not only for museums, but for the society in the future. Okay, so this is my last slide. We have learned much from this project, and it's a qualitative study, not an empirical one. But in addition to the main findings, we also got a few key takeaways. We believe that senior citizens can do things when or if they find motivated and have a good atmosphere to support their learning. Working in museum space through museum activities can truly empower senior citizens effectively, although a certain arrangement has to be made. And this activity not only empower senior citizens, but also allow opportunity for interaction between people of different generations and create better empathy. And last, museum can be a good place for empowering senior citizens as well as intergeneration space. More development can be studied in this area. Thank you.
네, 발표 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for the presentation. One psychologist said that if you want to have a good relation with other people, instead of doing something for that, you need to ask a favor. So through this presentation, I realized that in order to enable the senior citizens, you asked senior citizens to contribute to the museum. So that was very impressive. Thank you very much. And now we would like to move on to the Q&A session. Just like before, we first would like to open up the floor for the question. Is there any question?
very much for a fascinating talk. A lot of what you said resonates with me on projects we've run in the UK, where we've had family groups, and we discovered, like you, that we needed to train people first, that otherwise we were putting the senior members of a group in a position where they were having to expose what they didn't know to the younger people. But one can correct for that, which is interesting. My question is about recruitment. How do you find people for these programs? How do you advertise them? What do you tell them about what they will get out of the program? Because you speak, of course, as wanting, from a museum's perspective, to reach out to this community. What do you tell them about what they will get from the program?
Yeah. Well, it's actually it's not that easy, because we have to talk to we have to go to the community and explain to them who we are, why we want to do this. But I think we share some common value. These senior citizens, they are very proud of the knowledge and wisdoms, and they want to make sure it's continue. So we talk to them that okay, the community maybe is a good place for people to come and learn, but then if you come to the museum, yeah, there are opportunity for more people to meet you and then learn from you. And I think that's something that interests them, because I think that is the value we share, among each other. And of course, we talk to less than 10 communities, but not all are ready to come out. It's not because they are not interested, but sometimes they still have some barrier, physical barrier or something like that. So that's why we want to make sure that they are willing to do it, not by pushing or something like that. Yeah. But in a big picture, we are also working with the province. I mean, maybe in UK you have different state, or we work with them to identify the local wisdoms in the province, and that's how we select to reach them. Yeah.
답변 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for the answer. And is there any other person who would like to ask a question? If not, let me ask a question for you. In Korea, in Korean society, we have intergenerational conflict. This is very important social issue. In particular, there are young generation called Millennial and Generation Z, and they do not want to read for a long time, and they do not listen for a long time. We jokingly say that. So they want to communicate in a short interval. But for senior generation, they want to have a long conversation. They have their own way of communication. So between the senior generation and young generation, in order to narrow the gap, you made lots of effort. And I believe you had some problems in facilitating the communication between the generations. So what was the problem?
Yeah, I think, if you see the 3 projects, the second project was the one we intend to learn or create a space for intergeneration communication. It was not that successful, but it's a good start, and we learned how museum space can do that. But eventually we learned that the other 2 projects that we didn't mean, to create this intergeneration communication actually lead to even better intergeneration communication. The first one, we found that the museum floor turned to be like, a place where families with young kids and bigger kids can appreciate, right, the wisdom of the older generation. And the older generation who have been trained with us learn to communicate with them too. But I think the most important thing that I found is the facilitators. If we could train even more facilitators who are teenagers, who are adult, and let them understand this, there could be some seed of people of the young generation to help supporting this older member of the society. Yeah, and I think perhaps that would be even bigger value we found. And from this, we will do a more training for facilitators for elderly society, not only for museums, but for other institutions as well. Yeah.
답변 너무 감사합니다.
Thank you very much. Due to the limited time, we will finish the Q&A session. Please give her a big round of applause once again. Soon, after about 10 for about 10 minutes, we will have a group discussion. So we would like to invite all the speakers to the stage.
네. 주셔서 감사합니다.
Thank you. We have some questions that the audience may have because the Q&A time for each presenter was not sufficient. So if any one of the participants have any other question, please raise your hand. If not, I'd like to provide my comments on the presentations. I'd like to also ask some questions to the speakers.
과학관 책임자님께서는 어떻게 보면
So the Maloka science is focusing on the immigrants and women. And I learned that you focused on the science participation. And President Lim focused on the space so that citizens can have new perspective about space. And Vice President Ganigar Chen talked about senior citizens. They can be the audiences who are not interested in science museum, but you encouraged them to participate in science museum. So you played very important role. So my question for all three speakers is, currently we can see the development of information technology, and information technology is intended to the democracy and democratization of information. So we would like to facilitate the spread of information with IT. However, even in advanced countries, instead of having collective spreading of information, we can see the dark side of information technology. So people have a bias and they are focusing on the idea that they would like to see. So in your opinion, do you think IT, this information technology, can play a role in your work? What kind of role IT can play for new space or for science museum? What kind of roles information technology can play? So I would like to turn to Director Sigrid Falla first.
Is it working? Okay, yeah. Well, thank you so much for the question. And yes, we are now immersed in a world where information is everywhere, but is also the information that the algorithms of technology provide us. So we are looking at the information that mostly we want to read. So we need to open the space for conversation for other realities and other perspectives. And I think this is an important part of the experience of the museum. So we need to encourage something like the experiences that Ganigar showed us, and also Professor Lim, and is to have people from different backgrounds, perspectives, and cultures join together in the same place and having the possibility to dialogue and have these plural voices in a physical space. And I think it is also important to have a reflect of that dialogue in our social networks. I mean, all museums use the different networks as TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and so I think we should use those places also for reflect these different voices and for promote some kind of dialogue about the realities that we are facing. So it is important for our curators to think about curate the information that we are spreading in our social networks also, and to be a place that people can feel confidence on what we are saying and using that to open a conversation about difficult topics and issues.
다음 임진영 대표님.
President Lim, in architecture and in urban design, we use the term Instagrammable architecture. That means nowadays people like to take pictures, especially pictures of famous architecture and like glamorous and very impressive aesthetic buildings should be captured by photos. But at the same time, with more people connected in a network, there are more visitors who want to visit different buildings, and those buildings are now better shared. Now people want to prove that they were there, and through online, that information is shared with other people. And of course, we have both positive aspects and negative aspects. By looking at the positive side of it, now people want to prove through this new media, and the information of their visit is also shared with others. That means they have to know where they can visit, and they liked certain spaces, and also they spread information on certain programs offered by science museums. If you look at worldwide open house programs, we're not able to organize the programs or visits for 3 years because of the pandemic, because all those buildings are closed spaces. And no cities in the world opened up their doors to receive visitors. So we started to create videos or video programs. And there were some cities who started to create these videos, and 48 cities around the world also decided to have 48-hour festival, and we had 48-hour live program of open house. And cities that never had mutual visits were connected online for 48 hours. So by watching a video live of void streets in London, and we also got to understand the different situations of some Latin American cities. So we felt that we're really close to each other, and sometimes the physical boundaries separating us seem to disappear, and all the experience that we have on site could be shared online by sharing information on different spaces. Maybe we should better utilize the online media in order to share more information on spaces.
Last, I would like to turn to Ganigar Chen.
We cannot avoid the use of information technology for sure, but I think we need to make sure that we do not overuse the information technology in our museum, because there are many beauty of personal experience that museum can offer. However, I think in terms of using information technology to gather data or to analyze some data of our visitors, of our society, that would be a great use of museum. And this is an opportunity for public participation in science and in museum. We do a lot of social listening recently, not only to reflect how people think about our museum, but we start to use it to follow what people are talking in science. Then you can respond to their interests, in science and in technology, and make sure that whatever we are going to engage them or present them are relevant to their interests. So I think this would be important use of information technology in the future. And last but not least, I still want to emphasize that we should not underestimate the ability of the older people to learn IT. I think they are going to be an important group of people in the future, and we should try to empower them also on how to use IT technology effectively, and to make sure that they are not misuse it or be abused by some fake news or something like that. Yeah. So I think this is our role. Yeah.
예, 답변 정말 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for the answer. So down the road, I hope we can have more discussion like this. And due to the limited time, we would like to conclude the session. Distinguished participants, thank you very much.